At the end of April, former Ontario Liberal Cabinet Minister Glenn Murray shook up the race to succeed Elizabeth May by announcing his run for the leadership of the Green Party of Canada. And so we interviewed him on the agenda. It then occurred to us that, to be fair, we really should have the other leadership candidate with an Ontario connection on this program. And with that, we introduce Annamie Paul, who ran in the last federal election in the riding of Toronto Centre. And Annamie, it's good to have you on TVO, I think on the agenda for the first time. How you doing?
The first time, but not the last time, right, Steve? It's a real
Well,
pleasure.
I think that's up to you, actually.
It's a real pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thanks for saying so. Let's just start with your name, because I don't know anybody else with that first name. Annamie, A-N-N-A-M-I-E. What's the story there?
And to be honest, I really resist people truncating it or shortening it. It's Annamie, and it's a patois name. My father was born in Dominica. They speak a French English patois, so it means a friend, un ami.
Perfect. And you're born and raised in Toronto, yes?
That's right. That's right. Born.
How many siblings?
I have three siblings. Two girls, two boys, all born in Olympic years.
Well, that was quite a coincidence. Did you ever get to participate in an Olympic Games?
I did not. In my heart, Steve, in my heart, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. You've got some university experience on both sides of the border, yes?
That's right. I have my law degree from the University of Ottawa, my Bachelor of Laws, and I have my master's degree in public affairs from Princeton University.
What got you active in Green Party politics?
Just my long-standing concern for the issues of the day, really. I've trained as a policy analyst. I did both of those degrees exactly because I always knew I wanted to be involved in public policy. And at this moment in time, with these unprecedented challenges, it was really clear to me that the Green Party was at the cutting edge of the most innovative solutions, and I wanted to be a part of that. I wasn't always able to be involved in partisan work because of my background and my professional life. And so as soon as I was able to, I joined the Green Party. It was really clear to me that it was the only option for someone really serious about making profound change.
Let's talk a bit about that background, because you do have an impressive background, including a few years working in Belgium for the European Union. What did you do there?
Right. I worked, my first role in Europe was working for the Canadian government. In fact, I worked in global affairs. I was in the political department, and I was responsible for various portfolios, development, responsibility to protect human rights, conflict prevention, and I was the main contact for my EU counterparts on those portfolios. And I've been lucky. I've had a chance to do a mix of work for government, multilaterals, and also on the civil society side. All of it really focused around public diplomacy and international relations.
I'm guessing if you lived in Belgium, votre français c'est parfait, n'est-ce pas? Vous êtes bilingue?
Bon, c'est un très haut niveau, non, d'insister que quelqu'un soit parfaitement bilingue, mais oui, j'ai travaillé plusieurs fois en français. Je me sens très confortable dans ce langue. Quand même, je prends des leçons 2 fois par semaine. Le but, c'est toujours de perfectionner.
Okay, Annamie, I'm sold. Your French is way better than mine. Okay, enough. Tell me this. There's something called the Canadian Centre for Political Leadership. What is that?
That's right. So the Canadian Centre for Political Leadership was an institute that I founded, and I received a fellowship from an American foundation to found directly after my graduate studies at Princeton. I've always been really concerned about the issue of underrepresentation of marginalized groups in Canadian politics for more than any reason, because it really is a waste of the incredible talent that we have. And we know from years and years of studies that diversity in politics makes a measurable, quantifiable difference and qualitative difference in policy outcomes. And so I founded the first center of its kind in Canada after my studies, and we did training, we collaborated with academic institutions. I'm very proud that some of the graduates of some of our training programs, for instance, are now serving members of their community as elected representatives.
You did run last year in the federal election, and you ran in Toronto Centre, which
right.
was, that's a pretty tall order because you ran against Bill Morneau, who was the finance minister.
A little
A,
challenge.
a little challenging, yes. I looked it up, though. You moved the vote from 2% to 7%, which was the
That's
second
right.
best result in the whole Greater Toronto Area.
That's
Tell me,
right.
though, having now put your name on a ballot, what's the most important thing you learned about running for a political office?
I'm going to give the flip answer first, which is to say wear good shoes. That's the most important thing because
Hmm.
you really spend a lot of time out. If you're serious about running and if you're serious about connecting with your constituents, then you spend all of your days outside, you spend all of your days in the community. You really have to know the reason why you're doing it. I would say more than anything else, when you're running for office or when you're running for the leadership of a party, you have to be very clear about your objectives. And in my case, it really was about trying to contribute positively to really solving these unprecedented issues that we're facing.
Well, I would really like to be a fly on the wall at your family Thanksgiving dinners because you told us you are one of four siblings. And I gather one of your brothers is a laid off oil sands worker from Western Canada
That's
who's
right.
lost his job.
That's
And here
right.
you are running for the leadership of the Green Party, which, to the best of my knowledge, would love to shut down the oil sands. Can you tell me how you two actually resolve this issue?
We resolve it quite well. My brother is out. He's far away from his family. His family is still here in Toronto because the best paying work that was on offer for him was in the oil sands, in the oil patch rather. And so yes, he's been a roughneck out in Alberta for some time. He's laid off at the moment, like many oil workers are. And more than anything, what he's looking for is a job with a future. My brother, again, we're an unusual family. He has a bachelor's in environmental sciences. He's been looking quite diligently for work in the renewable energy sector, but of course the subsidies they flow much more freely into the oil sector than they do into the renewable energy sector, and so there's still more jobs there. So, when I talk about the issues related to a transition and a just transition away from oil, it's very personal for me. I would never support a party or run to lead a party that I thought didn't care about my brother and his future.
But when you say to him, the work you're doing is killing my planet, and when he says to you, yeah, but if you have your way, I'm never going to be able to feed my family, how does that argument resolve itself?
That's not quite how the conversation goes, Steve. It's really more about I have three children. I need to feed them. I want to be with them. I miss them because he has gone months without seeing them at a time. You spend most of your time close to the rig when you're working on one. And so we talk about what can he do? What is the next step? Where are the jobs of the future for him and the other young men? And it really is mostly young men who work on the crew with him. They're very interested in doing something else. That work, Steve, is it's dirty work. It's extremely loud. It's very, very dangerous. If you offer those workers a job with a future that is safer and lets them see their kids every night, they'll definitely take it.
Annamie, if you do get to be the successor to Elizabeth May and win the leadership of the Green Party, what's job one for you? Mission Central under your leadership.
Well, I'm going to frustrate you and split that into two parts, the internal and the external. Internally, the biggest job that the Green Party has at the moment, and my number one priority, is going to be truly diversifying the party. It is unfortunately the least diverse of the major political parties. We ran the least diverse slate in the last election. And so until we reflect the true diversity of Canada internally, I think it's very hard to sell the Green Party to Canadians. And so that would be job number one, and it's one that we've already started. The external job is going to be talking about the COVID recovery period and how to make the most of it, how to take policies that we've been championing for years, universal basic income, we call it guaranteed livable income, universal pharmacare, free student tuition for post-secondary students, how we're going to take those elements of a strong transition and make them a reality.
I don't know if you know this. I'll tell you this anyway because I looked this up. You are the first black woman since 1975 to run for the leadership of a major national party in Canada. It was Rosemary Brown running in 1975. Back then, it's kind of remarkable it's been that long. But I do want to ask you whether that aspect of your story, how much that matters to you.
It matters quite a lot, and it should matter to Canadians because, as I said, we know from decades of research, and as I mentioned, this is one of my areas of public policy specialization. We know that diverse representation matters. We know that in terms of encouraging new generations of young people to vote, that seeing themselves reflected, whether it's in terms of race, whether it's in terms of gender identity, et cetera. We know that those things make a difference in terms of their participation in the political process. And we also know that diversity yields better public policy results. And so, whenever we don't take full advantage of that, we're just selling ourselves short in a country as diverse as Canada. And unless we're saying that all of the qualified people to lead our provincial and federal governments are white men of a certain age, then we clearly, have some work to do in that area. And so it would be symbolic, and I know I'm aware of that. It's not the only reason to vote for me. I'm very qualified for the role, but I'm very aware that it will be very meaningful to quite a lot of people, and as well it should be.
Glenn Murray can make the same argument, though, right? There's never been an openly gay leader of a major national federal party as well, and he would be the first at that.
He would indeed. If I understand correctly from his interview, he did not think that that would be momentous, but I would suggest that it will be very momentous for all of the gay men who seek or who dream of being more fully involved in our public policy process and have not seen themselves reflected. Sometimes an event is bigger than the person that is the center of it. I'm very aware that this would be a historic event for me. It would be a historic event for him, and it would be very meaningful for many people in Canada.
Annamie, you're not just Black, but you're Jewish as well. And okay, tell us, how did that happen exactly?
Well, I converted many years ago. I've spent in a couple of years, I will have spent most of my life as a Jewish woman. My partner is Jewish. We have two children. It was very important to me to raise them in the Jewish faith. And I actually converted while I was a student at Princeton University. The rabbi that supervised my conversion was the director of the Hillel on campus. So it's, yes, I've been living a Jewish life for a very long time. My sons are bar mitzvahed. I wished everyone Chag Sameach not too long ago, and I'm very proud of that identity.
You made 2 bar mitzvahs.
That's, I sure did. One of them overseas, in fact, and one of them here in Toronto. But it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. We're very proud of that. My husband's family, half of the family fled during the pogroms, and the other half of the family was decimated during the Holocaust. And so, being Jewish and reflecting that identity and raising 2 Jewish sons is a very important part of my life.
You talked to me about this once. You did a bar mitzvah in Barcelona. Tell me about that.
Well, it was great. We actually had, my son was honored to be the first Jewish, boy to become a man, to put on his tefillin. And so that's the ritual binding of prayers on your arms and around your head. He did it for the first time since the Spanish Inquisition in the house of the chief rabbi of Girona. And so that actually was inscribed in the archives of Girona. It was a very special moment, both for our family and for the community in the Catalonia area. So
that's the first since the year 1492?
That's correct.
My goodness. Okay, that's pretty historic.
Correct.
All right. Well, as long as we're on the topic of history here, then let me ask you the other half of the equation. We haven't had an elected Jewish National Party leader in Canada, again, same year, 1975. It was David Lewis for the NDP.
That's
so
right.
If you were to win the Green Party leadership, would that aspect of the story be important to you?
Of course. These are all parts of my identity, my experience, and what I offer as a Green Party of Canada leadership candidate. They're all informed by those experiences. On both sides of my family, we have a history of oppression, a history of loss, of really having to fight for our civil rights. And so, these are values that we pass along to our kids. These are values that I bring to my public policy work. And so, absolutely, I know that it would be very meaningful for yet another community to have, a member of that community leading a federal party. And as I said, it's good for all Canadians. It just yields better results, and it gets young people out the door to vote. And we really have to be thinking about the next generation of voters as well.
Annamie, let me ask you just finally the obvious question, which is Glenn Murray's got a hell of a lot more profile than you do. There's another candidate in British Columbia who thinks he's going to win this thing. Can you win this
They're
thing?
both wrong. Every candidate, it's really up to them to define themselves and to explain to Green Party members and those who we're hoping will join the Green Party over the next few months why they're best suited to be the leader. In my case, I believe that global perspective I bring, having been abroad for so many years and working on behalf of Canadians and on behalf of the global community, is a real difference maker. My track record of working towards diversity in political representation, particularly for a party that has so much work to do in that area, is very meaningful. And then my commitment, more than anything, to a vision of the Green Party as the most diverse, democratic, and daring party in Canadian politics is one that I think is quite special as well. It's a very unprecedented time, Steve, and so having someone that can bring knowledge not just from this country but from abroad, and that really has the experience of creating solutions for public policy challenges that are relatively novel, is very important. And so I think that those are some of the things that will appeal to me, and I'm hoping that Green Party members will agree.
I guess I should say for the record, since we do have conservatives who watch this program, amazingly enough, there is another black woman running for a major national party leadership position right now, Leslyn Lewis, for the conservative leadership. Have you met her yet?
I have not, but certainly it's very exciting to the Black community in Canada to have two women, strong and very well qualified women running for leadership positions in federal parties. So, I'm certainly in my case, I'm working very hard to get through, and I'm watching her race with interest. We have some very significant policy differences. I can't say that we align really at all in terms of policy, but again, it's very important to have those diverse voices represented and to see an eminently qualified person presenting themselves for that role.
Well, we wish you well on the campaign, and we thank you for coming on to TVO tonight to introduce yourself to our viewers. Thanks, Annamie Paul.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, Steve. Looking forward to the next one.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.